looks sort of disorganized. Hi and welcome. We're so happy that you can join us today. My name is Jennifer Luna. I'm the elementary principal here at Balboa Academy, and I am super happy to introduce to you today, if you don't already know him, Mr. William Foster, Billy Foster. He's our media center and he runs our library here, which is one of the biggest libraries for children in Panama. So we're excited today to kind of talk about one of our most favorite topics, reading. Mr. Foster, why don't you introduce yourself?
All right. As Miss Luna said, my name is Billy Foster. I've been working here at Balboa Academy for the past 24 years. So I started in 2001 and I've been in libraries since. So it's been 24 years of the passion and love of reading and just getting our students and children just to enjoy and to just encourage that, just picking up a book and having fun. And today I do have the power. I do have the power of storytelling, but I have the honor of doing our webinar today with Miss Luna on the power of storytelling. So here at Balboa Academy, we really believe that reading is not just a subject. It is a gateway to lifelong learning and much, much more. And this webinar today, we're going to help families and you hopefully discover how just a simple conversation at home with children can enhance reading skills, spark imagination, build much stronger relationships, and encourage your children to have that love for literature. And it's as simple of just talking. And what we're basically talking about is, when we say storytelling, some people might mistake like, oh, Mr. Foster's going to storytell a book. But what we're talking about today is after a child reads a book, it's their talking. What are they saying about it? What are they talking about the story? So today we'll go ahead right away. And I do apologize if I talk a lot.
Yeah, don't worry. It's your passion in life, Mr. Foster. So that's why we're excited to be here talking about reading today. I also, as a former teacher, a first grade teacher, where many of our students learn to read. For me, reading aloud to little ones and listening to them read was one of my most favorite things to do as a teacher. And working towards loving books and having your nose in a book is one of those things that our teachers love for our children to have. And in our library, because there's so many books there and so many choices, it makes it easy for our kiddos here to find a book and fall in love with a story. And I know with my own children, it's been a pleasure reading with them when they were little and connecting with them that way. So I'll go to the next slide and we can talk about our first, which is the power of talking. Tell us about that, Mr. Foster.
All right. So why is conversation important? So when children talk and just have a conversation about what they're reading, it's not just retelling stories. They're actually learning to process ideas, reflect on the themes, and build a deeper emotional connection to the book. So it's really important that after a child reads a book, this includes you, if you read a book and you want to talk with your child, we'll talk a little later about that as well. It's important to show and model this with your students as well as your kids. But it's important that children stop and reflect. And we do a lot of that in classrooms, in the library. After we read a book, we don't just close and say, oh, great book, and let's go to the next one. No, we talk about what was the main idea, why did the character do that? Did you feel upset when the character did that? What was your emotions and things like that? So the first thing is conversation help children. It expands vocabulary, it improves the comprehension skills, it builds speaking and listening skills, which is very important at this stage in their education. And even as adults, some of us are a little nervous at speaking. And more we talk, the better we feel. It fosters confidence through our ideas. And that's something important. You see, I've seen children come in and they're very scared of picking up a book, very scared of talking when we're talking and discussing things in the classroom, in the library after a book. Some of them are very hesitant. And then all of a sudden, in 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, they're raising their hands and they're talking about, okay, I see this and I see that. Do you have anything? I'm sorry, Miss Luna. I see that you want to say something.
Well, I mean, I'm agreeing with you totally, Mr. Foster. For us, as an international school, and we have, about 40 countries represented here. We have some kids who English, of course, isn't their first language, and so these conversations that you promote in your library, really goes a long way about the stories that you read to them. It goes a long way to helping build that vocabulary and comprehension. I mean, many times, you have to stop because you'll see confused face on a very simple story, but do you know what that word means? Like, and I would encourage, parents to do that at home as well, because it's reading stories. It builds vocabulary, like Mr. Foster said. It, creates kind of background knowledge for them. So they can take that story and they can use it to help them comprehend another story later on in their life or in in the classroom. It all kind of works hand in hand and helping those kids grow in and out of the classroom. I love one of my favorite stories that I loved to read to my first graders was Magic Treehouse, and there's big vocabulary words in those books, and it's meant for that 6, 7, 8 beginning readers, and but with a little big vocabulary that we often had to stop and and think about, what does that word mean? Do you know what it means? And for them, it's one of those light bulb moments for them when they kind of learn something new and then can use it to understand the story the rest of the way. And of course, that speaking and listening that you do in your kind of like circle times on the big green carpet. It's a really special thing to see those kindergartners kind of come in shy, and by this time of the year they're running in there and can't wait to share what
Yes.
you read or what their teacher has read in the classroom. It's a really beautiful thing to see. Super special, very special for here in our school. Shall
Absolutely.
we move on
Yeah.
to creating a buzz around reading?
Yes. And so what I was going to say, one thing before, this is important. We're talking about it in the classroom, but this is also something it needs to be done at home as well. And so that creating the buzz around reading isn't just here in school, because don't worry, we take care of that. Here in school, we do everything possible to create that love of reading. But it is also your children seeing you. They need to see you enjoy, laugh, be silly with the book, talk about the book, what surprised them. You need to use it in a daily routine, like maybe at dinner time, maybe pick a time of the week in your car. Just make it natural. Don't make it forced, because if you force it, then obviously if you're telling your kids to read and you're not modeling it, you're not showing it, your kids are like, but why do I have to do it and you don't have to do it? So don't make it as a routine or a job or a homework. Make it as, this is important. This is part of life. And the more you read, the better. I always tell my students, the more you read, the more exercise you get your brain, and your brain needs exercise, and reading is exercise power for your brain. So it's important that you create that buzz at home, and it can be as simple as just reading together, bedtime stories, and do different things. And then,
Yeah.
yes, go ahead.
I would say also, have a basket of books around your house.
Absolutely.
Like you said, if it's, dinner time is your time that you talk about book, they have that moment to kind of like talk about books with your kids. Have a basket of books next to your dinner table, or, in your car, if that's the moment to, talk about stories, then, have those books in that backseat pocket where, if you're stuck in traffic, which happens in Panama often, that's the best part, we'll grab a book, have it in your backpack, or of course, Mr. Foster sends those home in your backpack, of course. But I think if you have it handy, it's so much easier for it to become part of your just like daily life of, bringing books into the conversation with your family. For me, I think that's been, it's hard sometimes to to create those moments, so you got to grab onto to the traffic, to the dinner time, to, it doesn't just have to be, that little story before they go to bed at night. So
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely
yeah.
correct. And value in children thought kind of plays into this. So when you ask the children their opinion, hey, what happened? What do you think about the story? And they give it to you, value their opinion. Don't try to correct them. Try to say, oh, I see what you said, but why don't we look at it this way? Or, how did you come up with that? Why did you give that as your opinion? What made you think that? Because it's important to understand that even though, yes, we read something and you think it's black and white, it really isn't black and white, because everyone might take their opinions or their feelings and take it to the story. So what we read might be completely different to someone else. And so we don't want to take away the value of their opinion, their ideas, because then they feel like, oh, I got it wrong. I don't want to do this anymore.
Right. Right. That's great advice. Great advice. What about those different levels and empowering readers on all levels?
So we need to make sure no matter what level they are, we're cheering students on, we're cheering them on, whether they're reading picture books, whether they're reading chapter books. Here, a lot of libraries have divided and they put different levels. We kind of don't do that here because we don't want students to feel that this is their level, this is their level. And so they get that in way of walking around, and you need to do the same thing. So even though you might think your child should be on one level, don't think that. Just encourage. If they're enjoying picture books, it's a phase and it happens. I get that a lot with parents ask me, hey, my child's still reading Franklin in second grade. I'm like, they will move on. They will grow. They will get into the big chapter books, and you've got that. I've seen it for many years, and it's not going to change. It will grow.
It will grow, absolutely. And making kind of going to the bookstore an exciting part of your weekend, is a way to kind of encourage them and give them that kind of choice as well. I would say for me, focusing on that praise the effort and not the perfection. In my classroom, often I would be reading a story and I would come to a word that, I knew how to read it, but I thought, what, this is a time for me to show that I'm not perfect and maybe I don't know how to say this word correctly, and I would intentionally kind of pause and be like, you know what? I don't know how to read this word. And, little eyes would pop up and be, what? And I would, we would write it out. We would, sound it out together. We would look kind of for those syllables in the word to help us kind of decode it and put the word together. And, it's super cute because there they see, like, wow, even my teacher's still learning to read some words, it's for me that, and it makes them excited to kind of, and feel more confident when they see that, oh, well, maybe, I don't have to be perfect, right? Everybody's still learning.
Oh, I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that does that.
And it's so funny to see their faces when you're like, oh my goodness, I need some help with this word.
They're very surprised, like, but wait a minute, you're an adult. You should know how to read that. I'm like,
yeah,
we're all learning.
Some of the words in Magic Treehouse are, I literally have to be like, guys, I got to break this up into syllables so I make sure I say it correct to you. It's super cute. Okay, so what kind of questions should we lead with?
So we should be reading with, open leading questions like, what surprised you most in the story? If you could give the main character some advice, what would it be? Things like that. Like open it up, make them think. And I tell my students here, thinking questions. I always go like this, thinking questions. And I said, thinking questions are good when an author makes us think, when an author makes us think about why are we here? Why are we there? What is this character doing? Why is this character doing this? So those leading, have those open leading questions to get them to think and to open up their mind and to kind of just open up that topic.
Right. Use those W's: what, where, when, why, which one, who. We talk, when we talk about books as well, we kind of, think about those W's and asking questions all along the way. That's how you help to build comprehension. And it also, make sure that they stay engaged in the story. Awesome. Well, I can't wait for us to move on and talk about getting beyond. Sometimes we hear what?
It's boring.
Yeah, sometimes we hear it's boring. That's right.
And basically what that means is the code for the student is probably not connecting to the book, or it's just not understanding. It's not necessarily boring, but they don't want to openly say that they're not getting it. They don't want to openly out in public say, I don't understand it, I'm not getting it. So they'd rather say, oh, it's boring, the book is boring. That way they still kind of hide in that, okay, no one's going to know that I didn't get the book. No one's going to know I didn't understand the book.
Yeah. Okay.
So I got that. And some engaging questions that kind of invite that creativity and kind of get them to think, maybe this is not a boring book. Let's look inside of it. Like, what do you think happens next? Would you want to be friends with this main character? Think about those things. Get them to open up. And we do this a lot here also in the classrooms, because obviously I read 50, 60, 70 books a year in all my classes. And obviously students are not going to like every single one of them. Right. But I ask them, I say, okay, what did you not like about the story? Like, what was the reason you didn't like it? Let's find out. And you don't just tell me I didn't like it. Say why. What was it? Was it a character?
You have to use because if you're going to give me your opinion about something.
And so basically for younger readers, this one's going a little faster because for younger readers, some of the things that you can do to challenge those younger readers is show me sorry, I'm skipping here. Am I reading it wrong?
No, we're here in this like gentle prompt.
Oh, I did skip. Sorry, I went to challenging. I'm sorry. Let me go back to
it's interesting because it's attention spans for younger readers is a lot shorter. And if you're listening as a parent of a younger child, and teacher says, well, we've got about 5 minutes of their time, and then you got to do something to grab their attention back and bring them back to you. So these prompts are important, especially if you need to read something that's longer. So what are some prompts that you recommend?
Some of the prompts, and I use these a lot for pre-K, kinder, and first level, is what did this story remind you from your own life? Like, did the story kind of make you like, oh, that happened to me before? Maybe ask them, show me a face the character would make if they were scared. Show me a face that the character would make if they were confused. Kind of go into a little bit more detail of asking questions like, what would the character do? Or what would the character act? Or what would the character say if? Those kind of things. And then the next one is for older readers. So obviously you're going to kind of change a little bit with the way you do for younger and the way you do for older. So older, and when I'm talking about older, I'm talking about 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. Yes. And obviously you can apply this for olders as well. Kind of like what message is,
Our 8-year-olds, our readers.
Right? Yes, our readers.
Our readers.
And I do actually say this one to my younger ones, my first and kinders as well, because I want them to understand. And some of it is like, what message is the author trying to send us? What the author wrote this book. Purpose? We didn't just want to write the book, just what was the purpose? And so we ask those questions at all. And those are a good question to ask. If you were the writer, how would you actually end the story differently if you had that opportunity to do it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. That prompts kind of creative writing as well. Can kind of, you can always tie reading to writing, which I love. That's awesome. And so I love this question of the week activity. That's
And this
something
kind
fun
of
you could do at
ties
home.
back into the buzz. This kind of ties
Mhm.
back into the buzz thing. And so as a family, you can kind of make reading part of family fun. And maybe on your refrigerator or maybe some area where you have the family, you put a weekly book related question that on the fridge or maybe on the family chat. Now, I say family
Mhm.
chat because obviously older kids have family chats, but our younger kids should not be on chats. And
Yeah.
so, and then you take turns. You have the whole week kind of looking at that question, dissecting it. And then when you have your maybe dinner time or whenever you have your book time, you can go
Mhm.
ahead and start talking about, hey, what did you find in that question? What did you think about that book?
Awesome. Yeah, you can uh, tie it to. It could be something super open ended that you could tie to anything that they're reading either at school or, that they brought home from the library or what
Yep.
they're reading on their own. I love that. For me, I find sometimes that kiddos will get, going back to your, that maybe they're not understanding or this is a comprehension thing. For me, I would find when I first started reading Magic Tree House and we would get to the Egyptian one.
Oh, yeah.
And, for a 6-year-old, there isn't a lot of background knowledge on Egypt. And I would say the word Pharaoh, and they, it was right over their head. And so the next time with the next class and I was presenting it to them, I decided to kind of like show them a little video online. There are so many informative, short, like 3-4 minute videos that are age appropriate for little ones on up that, if they're reading something that they're like, this is boring, just giving them that like 3 to 4 minute kind of like background knowledge video that it for instance, going back to the Egypt one for Magic Treehouse, they learned about the pyramids. They learned where Egypt was, and of course, it mentioned the Nile, and it talked about the pyramids and how they were used for tombs, and that's a new word for a lot of our English language learners, and so they found out what that was, and pharaohs, and within 3 to 4 minutes, a whole class of around 20 kids was able to, understand more what I was reading to them. Especially when, you get to that point where you're not reading those picture books and they don't have something to connect with, to help them understand better. So, and I found that to be really successful. And I got a lot less of, some of the kids who would check out when we were reading it because now they were more engaged in it because they have more information about, and understanding all of those like new words that they were hearing. So that's something that I always found interesting and helpful with to get past that kind of this is boring. um, Awesome. Well, why don't we focus on those 5 to 8 year olds? Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, because those are our little ones in our building, and I like to say that they are the ones that are still learning to read, and when we get to our older ones, they're reading to learn, right? So there's a big difference in those two age groups, with those little ones who are learning to read. So what are some strategies that you have for
So
us?
basically, if out there right now, if any of you are have children in our preschool class, you've probably seen me a lot in the videos, and you'll notice that movement and visual and play songs bring books to life, and especially at that age. And I do it with my pre-K, my kinder, my first, and I even do it in the first part with my second graders because it is important to get them to be interested in the book. And some of the things that we do are interactive style games. Like you can do stand up if there was a dragon in the story, or clap your hands if you were surprised about the ending, or thumbs up if your prediction at the beginning of the story came true, and things like that. So it allows them to kind of play those little games, and they're fun, interactive, and educational about the book.
Oh.
and also some emotions. And I had this as well, and I've seen this in other places as well. You can print out cards, you can just draw pictures, and you have happy, sad, silly, confused, and children can kind of put it up after the story, how they felt, how did the story make them feel. I do that with beanbags and colors, and or in you'll see a lot of my students thumbs up if you liked it, if you felt great, thumbs down if it was like in the middle is like you were a little confused and things like that. So you can kind of make up any signal or any style.
Oh, I
Now,
love that. I love that. I would also, when you would get to parts of stories where it would start describing a place in like a lot of detail. And, with these little ones, you're mostly reading to them, because, in that 5, 6, 7-year old, the most they can read at that point is, the cat sat on the mat. And if you read the cat sat on the mat every day and that's all you read, reading is boring. And so it's really important that they're, listening and being read stories that are way above what they can read, because that's what makes you feel, connected to stories. And I always, when we would get to those parts where I was reading to them and I could, see that it was about to describe a really cool scene or the feelings of the characters and things, I would say, okay, we'd like, let's all close our eyes and let's imagine that we're there, and I would kind of like set the scene and add some other, my voice and things, or some sound effects if there was, a bird that flew by, if the books had that, just so that the kids, could start kind of imagining and connecting to the story more, especially at that young age. I always found that to be a fun way to kind of help them interact with the story as well, kind of feel those
no,
emotions.
you're absolutely correct with voices as well, because as a librarian for many years, I've kind of learned how to do voices. And if
Yeah.
you're one of my
He's
parents, you'll
the
know, like,
best Grinch. Oh my goodness. He is the
yes,
best
and sometimes the kids are like, "You're like the Grinch."
Grinch.
And you have to change voices, like Miss Luna said. You have to adapt with the story. If all of a sudden it says yell, then yell. If it says, do things like stop, or if it said, oh, they're crying, start to cry. Because sometimes I'll cry and the kids will be like, "Are you really crying?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm that good of an actor." Excellent.
Read alouds can feel like that. Can feel like you're in a theater. That's for sure. What
Absolutely.
about reading choice tools? What
Okay, so
are
like
some things you can use?
let the kids rate books. In here in the library, and I know in classrooms you've got, rulers, you can do stickers that say love it or let's try something else. So obviously with younger levels of students, they might not be able to kind of describe what they didn't like. So maybe they just want a quick sticker, or maybe just put a bookmark, make a cute bookmark with them. One
Post-it
side.
notes are fun.
Yes, post-it notes and things like that, to give them that opportunity, so they are expressing their ideas. They're giving you their ideas, but in a way that they can give it.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the bookmarks that help kind of mark those, your favorite part with it, which is a great tool for helping the kids learn, to go back and find information in a story they've already read. Post-it notes, little ones can draw a happy face or a sad face, to kind of, let's talk about the character. How's he feeling? Can you draw it? All right, let's put the post-it note on this page so that it reminds us, of what the character was doing. And then you can kind of flip through and be like, wow, look how his emotions change throughout the story. And of course, kids love post-it notes.
Especially the neon ones.
Yes, it's super fun for them.
And
I love it. And what kind of quick reflection activities do you recommend?
And you actually just named one of them, and it's like draw your favorite scene in the story, retell. And we do that a lot with the lower levels, because writing it frustrates them right now, so they can do a little here and a little there. But I'm not going to ask a preschooler or a kinder right now to write out everything that you know. It's easier for them to draw draw. You can also ask things like, what would you want to read after reading this story? Would you want to read more of these stories like this? Or maybe you want to read something totally different. Maybe you read about the Cat in the Hat and you're like, okay, it was good, but let's go try something else.
Yeah, maybe you want a piggy and elephant instead.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think what's awesome about our amazing library here is that you do have such a wide range of selection that you really, here in Panama, bookstores are not as prominent as you would find, in other countries. You could say it's very limited, truthfully. And so what's wonderful about being a student here is that, you have this amazing selection here that of course you can check out. And so I would, think if you're reading something at home and you ask that question, is there something different you want to read next time? As a family, you can go on Amazon and find the book, send a note to school with Mr. Foster and be like, do you
Yes.
have this book? I want to read this one. Those are things that, get them excited about books and something that you guys can pick together. And, I'm sure Mr. Foster has it because you have such an amazing variety here. It's really something special for our kiddos. Shall we move on to talking about those older ones?
Absolutely.
Our kind of 8 to around 12-year-olds and how we can help them kind of keep that love of reading going.
So kids this age, obviously they want their independence, but we all know we still crave engagement and connection. So even though, I have high schoolers that to this day, I had them in pre-K, they're seniors, and they still come and say, I want you to read a story to me. Any age, even myself, I'll tell you, one of the things I love to do is when I go to the States and go to a bookstore where they have like a story time, I love to sit down and listen to it. It's something, it helps me get my voices, but it also helps me just enjoy because it's a great thing just to listen to someone, another person's way of telling a story. And so some things that you can do creative, create a conversation starters, things like, maybe what songs would be on a playlist for this character? Like,
that's fun.
Yeah, I thought about that when I was like, that's an older student, like in the 3rd and 4th grade, maybe.
Yeah, but
would this make a good movie? And if it did, who would you cast? Like, who would be in the movie?
Oh, I love that. Creative juices flowing.
Yes. And so reading personality also is discovering their reading personality is, are they a mystery solver? Are they fantasy explorer? Are they an animal lover? Let students find out, maybe take a little quiz, maybe find out what, they like, what, traits they enjoy, and then go towards those books. And I have that a lot. I have kids that love learning about, real life situations. So they love the who, was, what is.
Right. Those informational text. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then I have students that love cats and they want all kinds, not nonfiction. They want fiction chapter books on cats. And so, yes, Mr. Foster discovers a lot of those. Didn't realize there were a lot of books on cats.
That's so fun. I love, fun fact about Miss Luna, I love Harry Potter. So, that would be kind of, if you quizzed me, that would be one of my favorites, that you would come about your book personality. I love that. What kind of reader personality are you? You definitely tend to, we see them, either go to one side or the other when it comes to, fun facts, or, they want to follow along to a creative story. Of course, go ahead, Mr. Foster.
No, go ahead.
No. I was going to move on, but you can go ahead. If you
I am going to move on a little bit. So encouraging some personal reflection. So we want students to kind of own the book and be part of it. And so let them finish statements like, I felt blank when blank happened. Kind of make them reflect, like, how did they feel? We did it like kiddie style for the younger levels, what face, were you upset? But this one's like, what did you feel when this happened? Like, how did you feel? Would you like it if it happened to you? What would you do if this happened to you? Put yourself in the character's shoes. Don't just think outside and just yourself. Think about, oh, look what would happen. Try maybe doing reading panel nights and building that excitement. Yep. Reading panel nights. Yeah, basically what that is have each family member bring a book that they enjoy, kind of like a book club, if you want to say, but they present it in a mini little book club. So you're not talking to everyone is having their own little talk. And I do it to have my bundle of books.
Your little book talk. I love it. I love that. That would be such a fun way for them to explore other genres as well. That maybe you would have never wanted to, read something about, if you as an adult are reading like a history book or a motivational book, as adults, we tend to look for those things that help us through our like daily lives, that a little one maybe would never have picked up or even wanted to. But in that little book talk, if you talk about how it helped you as a reader, maybe that's something that they would be interested in reading as well. Love that. What is Pass It On?
And one of the things, this is taken back to what you said about the little sticky notes and the Post-it notes. So basically, Pass It On is building that excitement through sharing. So pass on that excitement. Leave a sticky note review inside a finished book for maybe a sibling and even, I tell students, because some students say, can we do a book review? And they put it inside of the book so that the next person who checks it out can read in the front of the cover what someone thought of the book. So you can kind of do the same thing at home. Create, rotating book of the weeks, a corner in your house, maybe kind of like what Miss Luna said earlier, where you have a little shelf of books.
Your book basket.
Yes, your book basket, and kind of just have that. This is the book of the week in that.
Oh, I love that.
Pass on that excitement.
Yeah, that would definitely go a long way. Of one of the courses that I took working on my master's was read aloud and the importance of it. And all through that book, the author talked about like you have to have books around. If you don't have books around, then it's hard to get interested in something. If you want a child to be interested in playing soccer, then you need to have a soccer ball around, right? And that's the same thing about books. If you want them to be interested in reading, then you got to have those around. Have a book basket in the bathroom. Like those are points where you kind of have your captive audience, I guess. So in the car and all of those places where you can really, it's there. So you never know. They're going to grab it, pick it up, start reading it, right?
And something you can also do, just an idea before we go to the final one, why it really matters, is you can also do something like I've heard other families do this and they really enjoyed it. So you have a lot of books that are movies now. So you can read the book, then later watch the movie and then compare and contrast and say, oh, what did you see in the book that you didn't see in the movie and why? What did you see in the movie that there was never in the book, and what was it good? Was the movie better? Why was the book better? Normally when we do those type of things, I do a lot in Battle of the Books with that, compare and contrast with the books in the movie. The kids always love the books better. They always say, no, the book is better. The book is much better.
As adults as well, we see that all the time. Harry Potter books are way better than the movies. All right, let's move on to why does this matter, right? This is important stuff.
This is the most important. This is our final one here. Basically, when we talk about books together, we turn reading into something that is just interactive, something memorable, something just transformative, something that just is going to be their part of our life, something that's story connection. Reading builds, that whole that whole bridge between your family. So if you're reading together, you're just doing something together. You're doing, instead of going and watching a movie, instead of going on the computer or giving an iPad, spend 30 minutes on talking about a book, not just reading a book, talking about books, talking about that. Whether a child is a nervous reader or racing through chapter books, conversations will make reading much more joyful, and they'll understand why they're reading it. What is the purpose of why they have to open up a book? And most importantly, don't make it a chore. Like, don't tell you got to go do your 20 minutes. Don't do that. Say, hey, it's reading time. Let's go read.
Yeah. Go back to those questions of like, what did you read today? And if they're like, I haven't read it, they're like, oh, let's go do it together. I want to know what happens in the next chapter. You can kind of create that excitement around it. It really is important that reading is really, it connects all subjects in school. And the more that we can promote that in our students, of course we do here at school, but it's so much more important at home. And they of course, as a child looking at your parent, your idol, you want to do everything that they do. They mimic what you do at work. They mimic if you're cooking something, they're playing that here at school. And so, if you're reading at home, then they're going to naturally read at school as well. And that just makes everybody's job so much easier. And truthfully, there's so much research out there that supports, reading to your child, reading with your child, and how that, supports them not only academically, but socially and emotionally. It really is that kind of key element for, not only kind of boosting the critical thinking and, but it's there for those emotional connections and really, like Mr. Foster put here, deepening that family bond. So so it matters, Mr. Foster.
Yes, absolutely. You need your help at home. That's what basically today's conversation was about. And a webinar was just how you can foster a love of reading at home, but at the same time, open up a little bit more so that they can see it at home and at school. Because they see it here at school. They see
all the time.
and it's all over. But we need that help at home as well. And it really is helpful, like Ms. Luna was saying.
It does. It's a wonderful connection and an easy connection to make, where everybody can enjoy it. Well, we are so thankful that you could join us today. Or if you weren't able to join us, or you want to go back and listen to something else, or this is going to be recorded and we'll have it up on our Balboa YouTube channel, that you can go back and check out, your 5 to 8 year old specific tips and tricks for that. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll look forward to another webinar where we're learning new things and sharing with our families and community soon. Thank you, Mr. Foster.
Thank you. I guess we don't have any questions. That would be...
No, not right now.
Perfect. Okay. All right.
Feel free to email us if you have any questions.
Absolutely. Please email me anytime. I do have quite a few parents that ask me for suggestions and books. Please, I'm here and open. So just send me an email.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.